So my first question is, it's all about English. So how can we learn English language?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. In order to learn a foreign language, in this case English, we must know the basic rules of language. It's very important for us to have the knowledge of language. And in order to become proficient, in order to be a proficient speaker, I think a few things that you can do and you have to do necessarily. One, you have to speak more and more. And who are you going to speak to? Someone who is good at speaking, who is good at language as a whole, knows the basic rules, and someone who is generous enough at the same time, who can maybe point out the mistakes that you make in your speech and rectify you from time to time and help you become better and better speaker. And listening, at the same time, listening is also very important. You've listened to native speakers or non-native speakers of English, but who know the basic rules well, who do not make so many mistakes. I mean, a reasonable level of correctness is very important. If you know someone who is a very fine speaker of English, you must listen to those speakers, or speakers like him or her. And this way you learn new words, new phrases, new structures. And doing these activities, listening and speaking, doing this, on daily basis. More importantly, if you learn a new word, new phrase, write things, every evening or morning, just write a paragraph on anything, maybe about politics, sports, entertainment, about anything, you can write on anything and use those newly learned words in your write-ups. This way you'll retain those words. Oftentimes what happens, people learn new words, but after 10 days, 20 days, they forget those words, and they don't have an answer to why that has happened. This happens with a lot of people. They are not able to retain words. So we should, in order to retain those words, I think we should write every evening, every morning, write small little things, write about anything and everything, but make sure that you use those newly learned words in your write-ups, and this will help you become a good speaker and at the same time a good writer as well.
So it was great, and now I have another question. It's all about translation. Like, I'm a native of Kashmiri, I'm able to speak Kashmiri language. When I start talking and translating them in English, I'm not able to translate those sentences. If I talk about Kashmiri language, I know a lot of words, a lot of sentences, but I want to try to translate them in English. I'm not able. How are we going to solve this problem?
Well, translations can be very tricky. What happens sometimes, people they are supposed to translate things, and first of all, we must know how translations work. We cannot have a one-for-one word. For example, there's a word in Kashmiri. It is quite possible that we do not have an equivalent of it in maybe English, and the opposite also. The opposite is also true. You can have an English word and there is no equivalent for that word in your native language, say in your Kashmiri language. So translations are tricky. At times, when you do not have a word or a structure, so to speak, sometimes you have a proverb. You want to have an equivalent proverb of a Kashmiri proverb, then you want to have an equivalent in English. Then you are not able to do it, and some people consider themselves as dumb. They say, well, I don't know the equivalent of it. It's not possible that you have equivalent of everything, and of everything from one language in the another. So translations of, if you have a translation of some word, a structure, a sentence, do it. But if you don't have it, either there is no translation of it, or you do not know it. There are two possibilities. Whatever possibility or whatever the case is, I think there is another way. We call that as circumlocution. You can go round and round things. For example, you are supposed to talk about this chair, and you are asking one of your students as to, get me a chair. You're supposed to say, get me a chair, or bring a chair for me, a structure like that, where you are supposed to use the word chair. And since you do not have the word, you don't remember it, what will you do? You don't have to stay quiet. You can go round and round, what we call circumlocution. You can say, Of, you know what, can you get me that object that has four legs, you know, a person sits on it, it's made of wood or plastic, and the listener, or the person you're addressing to, will say, "Oh, do you mean chair?" So this is one way of talking about things. When you don't have the translation, or you don't have the exact word about something, you can go round and round and round. And one more thing, you shouldn't be worried about it. You know, you cannot translate every single thing all the time. Sometimes maybe there is a translation, it's quite simple, and you know, it does not, you are not able to say it, you're not able to recollect it, you're not able to frame a certain structure, you're not able to talk about a certain thing, you do not have a term for something. It's absolutely fine. It happens with anyone, you know. You can't expect yourself to be a know-all, you know, that you know every single thing, you know every single word. This happens, you know. Translations are tricky at times. Simple structures, simple words, they flummox you. You're all of a sudden you feel like, you know, am I dumb? I don't know this word and I don't know this structure. I mean, it's absolutely fine. You should keep on working on a language, and there'll be a time when you feel like, you know, well, no, I am better than yesterday. I'm better than last month. But one has to be a little patient, and we shouldn't stop working on our improvement.
It was Marwick from your side. Now, it's last question. It's related to vocabulary. Now, if we want to speak, we know English language. We are able to speak, but we get staggered. Like, I want to speak, I want to learn. I don't know what words I have to use there. How are we gonna solve this? How can we work? So how can we improve this vocabulary?
Uh, while I was answering my first question, I touched this topic a little bit. I mean, we have a problem. We go for random words, you know, when we are aiming at improving our vocabulary. So we got to have a target. First, what words I have to focus on, what words I have to, you know, learn first. You have to prioritize. I think if you know it, that's fine. If you don't know it, let me tell you. There is a term called as Oxford 3000. What's Oxford 3000? Oxford 3000, it's a list of 3000 most common words. In the Oxford Dictionary, you can find those words written in bold, and there is a key symbol against each word. And there is also a list, you know, on the reference pages. You can find it, of Oxford 3000, complete list of those words. You can Google it, you know, their PDF is available. You can download that list. Our main focus should be on those 3000 words first, the most common words. Learn the pronunciation of those words, meaning of those words, and their collocation maybe. And this is number one. Number two, this happens with everyone. You come across new words each passing day. Maybe you are listening to someone who is a good speaker. You hear him or her, you hear them say a new word. You're reading a newspaper. You are scrolling. Maybe you're using social media. Maybe you are on Facebook. Somebody has uploaded a status, and you come across a new word. What happens? Generally, what happens? We skimp over. We slur over. We don't find the meaning of that word. Every time you come across a new word, note that word down. Look into a dictionary, find its meaning and pronunciation. And the next step is you have to use those newly learned words in your write-ups. Like I said, I've just said it a few minutes ago. So using, learning, coming across new words, noting them down, finding their meaning and pronunciation, and then using those words in our write-ups. That'll help us, you know, retain those words. This is how we improve our vocabulary. Some people go about it in a very different way. Well, they do. They have a target. Today I learned 50 words. They just have a dictionary, go for cramming, learn 50 words today, 50 words tomorrow, 50 words day after, and maybe in a month they have learned a lot of words, maybe 1,500 words, you know. But you ask those people after maybe 50 days, how many words do you remember now from among those, 1,500 words? I don't think they remember a lot of words from them, because learning a word, learning the meaning of a word is one thing, but retaining it on your brain, on your head, that's a different thing. How do you retain words? You learn a word, you use that word in a write-up, you use that word in the topic you deliver at the academy tomorrow, you use that word in your daily conversation, you use that word in your status update on Facebook, you use that word in your text messages that you're sending to your friends, you use that word wherever you find the need to. That is how you retain words. And I think this is the best way to learn vocabulary and the best way to retain words that we learn.